Hi, I'm Aerica from DESIblitz. Thank you, Rahul, for joining us today, and a very warm welcome on behalf of the UK Asian Film Festival and Tongues on Fire. How are you feeling today?
Thank you, Rika. Thank you for the warm welcome. It's all good. We are all going through a state of crisis with COVID 19. Most of India is affected by the crisis, as you know. We are all in lockdown currently and in the comfort of our homes. We are all safe. That's it.
Very good to know that you are keeping safe and doing well. So, firstly, a huge congratulations on the False Eye and for winning the national award for the same.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, I want to start by understanding that what aspect of cinema really fascinated you to make this huge career transition? Because I know that you started off as an engineer and then to film director.
Uh, I don't know. I just it's like falling in love. So you do not really know what the reason is behind this. I just started doing a few films. I started making documentaries and short films in the beginning, and once that creative desires and that passion to for the medium actually took off from that point, and then it slowly began to kind of improve my life, and I started spending more hours on filmmaking rather than other stuff. So there came a point in my career where I had to kind of pursue. I felt like this is the point. I need to take a break from my routine 9 to 5 job and try making my film. So I don't know if there's one reason. I have not been a kid who has been fascinated by cinema or all that. I've been a very regular kid in that sense. But uh, I used to do few theater in while in school and in college, and after that, the idea of filmmaking came to me, and it was only after I started working I could find the finances from my little savings to make my own small stories through short films and documentaries. And once they started traveling and getting recognized, I felt this was my calling and I had to give up my job.
That's amazing. We glad you did that, and we got to see this wonderful movie. And so, how did you come up with this unique concept of filming the entire movie with a GoPro camera?
No, I didn't start off from that point. My whole idea of that cinema came from that storyline of False Eye, which is uh, about moral policing and vigilante and kind of. I feel that our privacy is something that is now most often used as a tool to threaten us, and it is from that point of the whole idea is about voyeurism, and it was that story that happened to me first, and that it was I wanted to do a film that deals on these topics that needs to be addressed, like voyeurism and everything. So it was from that point I started working on the False Eye, and it was only at a later stage I realized, okay, it will be good to shoot it in a way that it would look voyeuristic, or I would choose to show what the camera sees, so that I can put the audience also right in the middle of the action and right in the middle of the scene. So that treatment actually came in second. First, it was about that storytelling and about that narrative that came through. And once that this is voyeurism and moral policing, etc., topics that we need to deal very sensitively in films to make sure that impact is right there, and at the same time it is not looking vulgar and everything. So it is from that standpoint that I chose to uh, opt a narrative like this and start working on something like this.
Fair enough. And I heard that the entire movie was shot in just 1 week. So how did you manage that?
I think the credit goes to the actors, actually, the kids, including the kids. They were all fabulous actors. So we shot it in a week, that's true. Because most of this, we did not go there with a very rigid screenplay. we had a whole sequence idea to it, and we knew what characters would say what and all that stuff. But there was no rigid screenplay as such. So there was more scope of improvisation and how the camera has to move. That choreography was done on the spot. Only after reaching the location, we kind of improvised. The camera has to move in this way. It has to come in this side at this point in time this actor has to come in and all that. If you have seen the film, you know that it is mostly single shots that is being used in the film, which are long lengthy takes. So we actually conceived the film in that manner itself, and the actors actually, I had the privilege of working with such good actors. I would give the credit to them because most often their contribution on stage, the improvisation, everything was spot on. So we did a few big. I think we have probably done 7 or 8 rehearsals before taking each of those shots because everything has to fall in place, like the camera movement, the artist position, and everything. And at the same time, you need to ensure that even in the chaos, you need to ensure that some dialogues are given out loudly so that everyone has clarity of what is being said and everything. So we did a few rehearsals for each of those shots, and then we started shooting them. So I think we also went in with a very small crew, and that also helps to finish it in such smaller number of days. And with the actors also, they were all professional actors, including the kids. They have done films before, so it was easy in that perspective to work along with them.
Indeed, I think the main highlight for me was the kids. They did a wonderful job. Their performance was impeccable, definitely. So,
Yeah.
how much is the false eye derived from your personal experience?
From my personal experience,
Yes.
not much, but some of these things like we have been very, in a very bad sense, we have become very comfortable as a society with moral policing and all that nuisance that's happening around us. So even in my state in Kerala, which has the highest literacy in India, and even here we have such, we are hearing lots of such cases happening every day, and most often uh, a girl or a woman is made a victim. And I feel that that sort of menace has been going on for a long time here, uh, where a girl's or a woman's privacy and her freedom are held hostage and she's being blackmailed with it. So I've heard a lot of such stories happening around me in the news and everything. And that actually provoked me to make a film on voyeurism, on this topic in particular, because I feel needs to be, and even while choosing a narrative style like this, what I intend is to put the audience right in the middle of all that action because it becomes more like a first-hand experience. You feel like you're being part of that move and be a part of that all that chaos. So that was the reason why this whole idea of this narrative also came through. So yeah, that was it.
Right. Actually, I have observed that all of your films, they have a very strong message. In fact, even in this film, it spins around a story which reflects the drawbacks of our society, especially how a woman is perceived. And like you mentioned, Kerala is the most literate state considered in India. So, and we are in 21st century, and we're still fighting for gender equality. And
Absolutely.
and your film is centered around that as well. So, what are your thoughts in that?
I actually does not go into making any film wanting to say a message or anything like that sort. Uh, I don't start any film from that point. What have comes to me often is the storyline that first strikes me, and that's what I go beside them. I go with them, and those stories when they organically develop, probably my personal politics or my messaging and my thoughts also will come into it knowingly or unknowingly, most often unknowingly.
Yeah.
So yeah, as a man who's also part of this society, I feel that I'm also part of this society. I'm not that person who's completely evolved. I don't claim myself to be 100% perfect. I am part of this society, and all my upbringing is part of it. So there are parts of me that is still regressive, that is probably still not uh, hitting a quality benchmark. So, as a human being, as a man, as a filmmaker, what I try to do is I try to seek out what are those weaknesses within me, and I try to take them out of my system. I try to evolve. I try to get better. Most of probably my understanding of gender equality over has changed in the probably in the last 5 years, because my maturity levels, my understanding, the people I met with, interacted with, or the books that I read, everything has significantly contributed to who I am as a person. So my thought process also gets evolved. It is about, I feel it is, filmmaking is also a part of like a personal journey where you also seek out certain things that is within you, and you want to try and correct those systems, and you can want to redefine yourself in a better way as an individual. I want to actually make progress every day. I try and make progress every day in my mindset, in my morality, and everything. So when I approach a film, I don't try to consciously try and deliver a message with it. My thought process, what I am as a person, kind of probably reflects in my films. So that, and most of it does not come naturally. Or I don't know. I don't think it is put it in purpose. There are
Right.
certain stories that I am very sensitive to and I get attached to. I try and narrate those stories in a very, what do you say, in a very truthful way, at least to make it look genuine. I don't want to uh, kind of build around it or stumble around the bush. I try to come to it directly and try and address the problem, what my film is trying to deal with. So I start with that story part, and I don't purposefully try to incorporate message in all my films. Or that if that happens, if a person watching my film takes away something from that film, or something that as a subtext from that film, I will be more than happy as a filmmaker. I don't intend to spoon feed. I don't think that would be the right intention for art, to actually spoon feed people. Art is about discovering it, and it should evolve. Is what I feel. The message that if there is a message that comes across my film, that's part of my evolution, and probably it will helps if it helps at least one person to redefine or rethink his thoughts on gender equality or feminism. On all these areas, I'm more than happy that the film has achieved something more than just being an entertainer, or more than just being a piece of engagement.
Definitely. I think when we watched the movie, we got your perception about what you think about gender equality and the kind of change you want to bring in the society. Like recently, you just mentioned right now that 5 years ago you had a different perception about gender equality, and it has recently changed. So, what exactly has changed? What perception has changed towards
No,
this?
I can't pinpoint in that way. I don't know how to pinpoint this has changed or that has changed. But I feel that as an individual, you progress. You are the sum total of all your interactions. The more you interact with people. I am fortunate in a way that I was brought up in a family where my parents absolutely gave the same amount of freedom, flexibility to me and my younger sister. So growing up, I never knew what that gender bias was about. Uh, my sister, my mother, my wife, they are all very individualistic, very bright people on their own world. So uh, most often I have to try and match up to their levels of intellectual capability and everything. So I feel I'm very inspired by the women, even my friends who are girlfriends who are with me from the opposite gender. I've tried to learn from them. I've tried to understand their problems better. From my wife, I've tried to understand their thought process better. So probably my whole uh, mentality would have changed over a period of time, is what I would say. I cannot pinpoint this aspect changed or that aspect changed. I think I was fortunate to be part of a family that brought me up in a way to respect people as they are, and respect people's privacy and priorities. So that actually had a very strong influence in me. And when on growing up, when my reading got wider, when my interactions got wider, see, when I am now interacting with a wider set of audience as a filmmaker, my certain thought process also gets refined. It gets, you identify, even if there are small loopholes or weaknesses in your soul, you kind of identify it when you look back into yourself, and you try and mend those areas, and you want to get better as an individual. So uh, I think being a filmmaker, I've been become more sensitive, is what I think, or the journey of my last 4 years, if I look back, because now I am more actually aware of the problems around me and the situations more around me, because I am narrating stories. I want to be truthful as possible to people about it. So, as a filmmaker, when I took up this profession, I think my levels of sensitivity and awareness has really grown up to a next level. Is what I assume it to be.
Right, right. That's actually a very good point you made. So, like you mentioned, in your household, you got inspired by your mom, your sister, and they are their own individuals. I remember in one of the scenes, the male protagonist, the little kid, tells his friend about Rosie, and he says that if I am the actor, if I'm the male actor, main actor, no, everybody's going to come to see me and not her. And if I'm the main actor, I'm supposed to stand in front, right? So
Yeah.
unintentionally, you threw a spotlight on this very sensitive topic, patriarchal mindset, that is getting ingrained in children at a very young age. Do you reckon this is the root cause for some of the major problems we are facing in society today?
I think we are part of some of those problems, because see, cinema is a very powerful medium as far as I am concerned. I think it can influence, maybe even if it cannot influence your core, at least your periphery can be influenced by cinema. And this reason of having this male star dominating the industry, we still call film cinema as an industry, right? Because there's a lot of commercials involved in it. There's a lot of business involved in it. We still, even beyond, and being cinema being an art, it is also called as an industry because of the same reason. And when such commercial dynamics come in, there's always this gender conflict or this gender bias that comes along with it. So in that sense, yeah, cinema has had its influences. I feel I have not, probably it will not corrupt your core or something, but it is a very powerful medium, as far as I am concerned. So uh, we have seen all these things in our past, and even when you see, look at now, the cinema itself has evolved. Earlier, yeah, if there is a anti female reference in your film, there are multiple incidents of a husband slapping a wife and the theater laughing for it or clapping for it. But today, if you have such a scene, people will call you out, because that level of awareness has changed. And it is a time taking process. Your cinema is does not, I feel it is not different from what the society is. As the society evolves, cinema also as an art also evolves. Today we have more gender neutral roles being written, more powerful female characters written, and those are very welcoming positive changes. And I feel cinema as an art, it has a lot more to do than what we are doing. And so the whole idea of hero worship is slowly getting changed in parts of our country, where even smaller films are doing well, that new ideas are being discussed. So these are all welcome changes, but still we are a long way to go from where we ideally should be. But I am definitely sure that we have just started the journey. If you look at 5 years ago, the films that are being made today are much more sensitive. At least in Malayalam, in Kerala, the films here are also very well discussed for its politics and its messaging. So That's the same reason why we have our films also have become more socially responsible in what the content they are trying to say.
Definitely. And in fact, talking about the strong female characters, your film Coco was recently released,
Yeah.
and definitely there was a transition from indie to commercial. So, how
Mm.
difficult was this transition? Because I know that you were known as an indie film director, and suddenly we see this huge commercial film. So, how difficult, how challenging was it?
In fact, Coco is my second commercial cinema. I have done a comedy also in between. My second film, my first commercial cinema was called Dagini. So it's a kind of a no-brainer comedy, and Coco is a sports drama. Again, for me, while doing these films, I don't actually distinguish them as indie or mainstream. My thought process is about that specific story. So for a film like The False Eye, when I started doing it itself, I was not very sure that we are not looking for a theatrical release. We want to get it to the audience who are seeking such content, who are willing to accept that content, and it is very experimental in its nature. But Coco is made for a bigger, wider audience who can accept it and can see it at their leisure and everything. So only for me that business part of it changed, or the target audience part of it changed. By what I try and do is I try to be at most sincere and committed to the story that I'm trying to say. If my story needs a bigger canvas to narrate, I obviously need a bigger star to come in, because then only my business part of it will happen, or my sales part of it will happen. I will have a theatrical release or a big OTT release. Only that is possible only when a bigger star comes to the picture. But beyond that, I don't think I have any difference in both these streams of film, because it takes the same amount of courage, it takes the same amount of effort. I i always try and say this because I invest my life into my films, because I do not know whether I get to make another film or not. Probably I do not know what my next film is. So whatever film I try to do, I try and invest my life into it and give it my everything. And I I just know only one way out of it. I am so like the horse with blinders. I don't see anything else. I am just so focused on what I am doing at that moment, and I try and do what is best for that film. I do not have a second thought on whether it will work or whether how the audience will accept. That is very secondary to me. Most often, I stick to what the narrative is, what the storyline is, and I try and do utmost justice to it. That's what I. That's my kind of my ground rule.
And that comes on the screen pretty well, honestly. This The False Eye, it was brilliantly scripted, and we could see that how much efforts went behind the entire filming. Also, I remember one of my Malayalam friends, they mentioned that Kalanotam has a very different meaning to the English translation, the false eye. So how did you come up with this name?
Uh, yeah, the false eye is because there is. I feel here the camera is a character in our film. It is like a third person traveling along with the characters. This camera is a character in the film. So this character has a false gaze. We are looking at women, or we are looking at their freedom. We are looking at their privacy, all from a false gaze, and that gaze is not progressive. At times, it is regressive. See, the same camera which was stolen by the kids to make a cinema, which was a very kind of a creative idea, all of a sudden becomes a tool of destruction. And that changeover in its the in that character of the camera is not specific to the camera. It is about the person using the camera. So most often this camera is becoming a tool to intrude into someone's life, intrude into someone's privacy, and uh, do all sort of nonsense around it. So in that sense, this is, so as an audience we are seeing only what the camera is saying. So is this the truth? We don't know. Is it, At the same point, you see the camera being manipulated when the people who are getting who are torturing the moral policing, who are doing the moral policing, they are now telling that the brother brought stole the camera to shoot her sister. So
Right.
all of a sudden the narrative itself is getting changed, or all of a sudden the gaze itself is getting changed. So most often such uh, mm, this technology is being used as a tool for manipulating uh, lives of people, and most often we see that it is often a woman or a girl who ends up being the loser in that scenario, or ends up being victimized or being traumatized because of it. So it is her, she is being held hostage for no fault of hers. uh, Her freedom is being questioned, her morality is being questioned, where it is the other way around what it is supposed to be. It is the morality of the other people has to be questioned. But unfortunately, this society is so lopsided, or our view or the gaze is so lopsided on certain matters, that we kind of focus on this aspect of it. So it is from that zone we thought, okay, the false eye will probably be a better English title.
Would it be correct to say that the camera was one of the main protagonists? Because at the end, there was a major twist in the plot.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
when we thought the movie is almost ended, there was a new bomb that dropped on us. So,
yeah.
do you reckon it'll be justified if we say that the camera is definitely one of the.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That's why I said the false eye. The name itself came from that thought of the camera being a protagonist, and the whole idea of this is a representative of certain people. I feel this. I don't want to generalize and say the society is like this or not, but this is the representation of a certain section of society, and we can't live in denial that there is no such things happening around us, because we have heard so many such bad news, and we are, as I said earlier, we have become comfortably numb about all that in a very bad way. So yeah, my camera is my protagonist, and it is a representative of a wider section of society, and that's why I said if it has some hard questions that we need to answer as a viewer and involve in those discussions.
Definitely. That was actually very, very thought provoking and a very different angle to how you've used your camera. Um, so, this year, the theme of our festival is Ray of Hope. How do you reckon your film relates to our theme?
I think that there is no better time to have this hope thing going around, because we are all fighting one of the probably the biggest crisis of our lifetimes. I feel, the whole world has come to stand still in front of a virus which we can't even see. The number of deaths that are happening across the globe everywhere is so alarming that we are still we haven't even, it has started almost 1.5 years ago, and we are still in the middle of all the damage it has done, and still things haven't happened. It hasn't, it is not at over, there's a long way to go. So for me, I think this is the probably the best time to say stories of hope, and this is probably, I think this is a much more important time for self reflection and self thought, because we are all now probably taking a big break from our busy schedules. We are at our homes, confined spaces. We have minimum social interactions these days, and probably all of our interactions have been through Zoom calls and video calls and everything. So we are in that time zone where it is. I think it is one of the most decisive points in humanity, where I feel it is a time of self-reflection, and probably we need to look back into ourselves. As I said, I don't think anyone is evolved 100%. There's always scope for improvement in every individual, is what I feel. And as I said, if there is a weakness that you identify within yourself, I do that. I do try to do that with uh, every day of my life. I try and evaluate myself on when there are certain thoughts that are probably regressive still in my mind. I try to counter them, I try to come out of them, I try and identify them, I try and redefine them, I try and revolve. So I feel my film also is from that standpoint. If, as I said, if there is one good conversation that happens around moral policing, around uh, respecting the other person's choice and freedom, if there's one person who gets influenced by this film and has a subtext to it, uh, which he can read and understand, I think that film will have done this purpose. And I feel I need to thank all of UK Asian Film Festival, all the volunteers, organizers, and everyone for organizing this film festival at these times, because these are very important times and we are part of creating a new history now, because things are getting redefined, our perspectives are getting redefined. Things we thought was small are no longer smaller, because they are more life threatening, and things are all going in a very bad way. So when art is a great tool for such intervention to provide hope, and to even more better, a film festival can create a lot of such conversations, and it connects with such audience who would love to have such conversations. And I am more than happy that my film has a place in UK Asian Film Festival, and I'm very thankful to all the audience who come to watch the film.
You actually have made a very good point here that talking about these issues is the first step. It's very imperative that we talk about it and get the change started. So definitely, that's something we need to think about. Also, finally, post lockdown, what are your plans and what kind of films can we look forward to?
I have no clue as of now. I have few ideas that I'm working on. Most probably, I'm trying. My next project is a 3D animation short film. It's a full-on animation short film, 3D animation. So yeah, I am trying to work on that now, since things are in lockdown and it's not moving. But soon after it, I will probably start working on it. That's what I think.
We are definitely looking forward to it. And any final message for our audience?
I'm just thankful to all of them for giving me this opportunity to bring this film to you, and I'm thankful to all the organizers of UK Asian Film Festival. Please let me know your thoughts. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. We can connect virtually. Once you have seen the film, if you can let me know your thoughts, that will be more encouraging for me as a filmmaker, because for a small Malayalam film like ours now to get premiered in a theater in London during these times is some absolute privilege, and I'm really honored to be a part of it. Really looking forward to all the other films at the festival as well. Some, I know there are some great films lined up, so I'm really looking forward to all of them. And yeah, thanks once again to everyone.
Thank you so much. And with this, I sign off, hoping our audience takes something away from this. And to remind you all, the festival runs from 26th of May to 6th of June, and the full program can be accessed on our website. Also, follow us on our social media handle at the rate UKAFF and stay tuned. Thank you very much, Rahul, for joining us today.
Thank you, Erika. Thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction.